All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Hello, everybody. My name is Will Devlin. I'm the VP of Marketing here at MessageGears, and we appreciate you taking your time out of your day for It's Time to Ditch Your ESP. We're going to talk through a little bit of the problems that people are facing nowadays and why now is the right time to innovate and get your ESP out of there. Um, I'm joined today by my esteemed colleague, Nick Zeke Lopez. Nick, you want to say hi?
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, it's good to
Well,
see
thank you very much for having me today. So like Will said, I'm the director of product strategy here at MessageGears, and I really liked a lot of pieces that Will and his team put together in the white paper, and I'd like to talk a little bit about what MessageGears is and how we come through in the piece.
That's great, and thanks again for joining. Um, a lot of what we're going to talk about today is based off a white paper that we released. It's called "It's Time to Ditch Your ESP," which is available right now at messagegears.com/ditchem. We will also send you a copy of this afterwards, but you can go to the website. We don't ask for any more information, and you go straight to this webpage and you click a button and you get the white paper. There's no form or gate on it, and it's really centered around some research that we've done, and then some just our general philosophy on why ESPs are old school and a robust customer marketing platform, and the approach to how your technology should be working with your customer data has to be rethought in today's environment. And so I encourage everybody to again read that following this, but we're going to go through a lot of the talking points here. One of the things I want to get out of the way, and Nick, this is where I want your input specifically up front, is I think a lot of people, when we first published this, I got a lot of feedback of, but your MessageGears, aren't you an ESP? You're trying to say you're not an ESP. Um, what do you say to that, Nick? I'll let you answer that.
Well, I think that is an astute observation, as it is in the name, MessageGears. And for a long time, our flagship product of Message was our primary offering. What we wanted to do, though, is since introducing our two products early last year and becoming more of a customer marketing platform, a platform offering multiple solutions, with Message being one of them, we wanted to kind of take a step back and look at how switching the ESP, switching your messaging provider, is typically the biggest task that a lot of these teams do, and it seems almost impossible. So what we do is, and we've got this Venn diagram here that illustrates it, but in the top left, we have our segmentation product that connects directly to customer data and is able to provide visual segmentations for marketers to better understand their audience. We then have our messaging product, similar to a lot of the functionality of a traditional ESP, but architected to connect directly to your customer data. And then our Engage product, which Will knows I'm a big fan of, that makes data access easy for many marketers. So yes, we absolutely do have that messaging product, but what this allowed us to do is take a step back and say, within the industry, a lot of these segmentation tools, a lot of these data access tools, personalization tools do not have nearly the barrier to switch as messaging products are typically seen, and we wanted to tackle it by that way.
Great. I want to start things off by talking about the direct connect aspect, because that is what makes our approach completely different than anybody else's. And I think there's a lot of confusion, particularly on marketers, of like what exactly that means and what those benefits can be. We hear a lot of other players in our space talking about we integrate, or we can segment, or we can connect to your data, but connecting directly to your data is really an important distinction here. What are some of the benefits of connecting directly to your data?
I really like the piece in the white paper that goes into greater detail than I will here, but it really picks out 4 pieces that all play upon each other. So the first piece is improved one-to-one personalization. When you're shipping data to your vendor, your platform, you lose a lot of the possibility to really send personalized messages, because you lose a lot of the granularity when you aren't working with your own data. The data is probably maybe old. You may not be able to get certain data types, or you may have to change how you want to structure your messages to fit in with what your vendor supports. Now, it seems almost non-intuitive, but the second part of that is that we see so much less IT involvement when you're able to use your own data. A lot of marketers think that once they start using their own data, they're going to have to go back and forth with IT so much. But the fact of the matter is that you already are. When you're shipping terabytes of data every week to this other vendor, IT is involved from the very beginning. How that data gets there, how it's monitored, how they know it's secure. By letting your vendor get out of the way and using your own data, your own infrastructure, it gives IT both more control and lets them be more comfortable with who's using it. Along with that lowered IT investment, then comes lower costs across the board. So, a lot of these hidden costs that you see with a lot of these ESP services are that not only in just shipping data, but now you're using their platform. You're beholden to what they can do, both in terms of resources and data management. And by having that on your on-premise and in what you want, or basically in your environment, it lowers the IT cost, lowers the labor cost, and allows you to send messages more effectively. And then finally, and I think this speaks for itself, the customer data stays secure. When you're not copying, when you're not duplicating or sometimes triplicating that customer data to all of these different sources of record, you have more trustworthy and basically more security in where that data sits and who's accessing your customer information.
I love, the benefits here really are around, look, the technology gets out of the way, the marketers can do what they've dreamt to do and really serve their customers more efficiently here at a lower cost and keeping data secure. There's, to me, I've been MessageGears for 6 years now, and that's just been in this industry for 20 years. That's what excites me so much about the direct connection piece. Is just these are benefits everybody would go for. Let's talk for a moment about remote ESP, because you're going to use this term quite a bit the remainder of the webinar here. What is a remote ESP?
Yeah. So, we came up with this idea of the remote ESP because a remote ESP fundamentally lives far away from you. You have to send them information. When you send emails, you are logging into their platform on some service they control, very far away from where the marketer is. We've traditionally used the term legacy ESP because that's how many of these players are. But recently, a lot of the, I'll call them less old players have begun to also hate on legacy ESPs, but are still following the legacy ESP model. Will, I know you can name a few, but many of these companies say that they're not a legacy ESP, but the way they're built, the way they're architected, and the things the marketer have to do, funnily make them the one and the same.
Yeah, they behave the same way. So that brings me to the next question is really, why do remote ESPs hate your data? I snuck this in here. We'll put an asterisk here. Just kidding. Or are we? Just kidding. But let's talk about remote ESPs in a little bit more, like why, where they came from, and why some of the newer players, when they talk about legacy ESPs, are still following that, that legacy ESP footprint. They're still behaving that way.
Yeah, absolutely. So just to give a really quick idea of what's going on here, long time ago when you had these legacy databases that were starting to collect more and more data, the most effective way for you to utilize that data and send messages was to take a snapshot of that data every night, every week, and ship it over to your marketing platform. The exact targets and the silver pops of the world. What you could then do is create content and using their rules effectively get messages, so you didn't have to rely on your data, because fundamentally they weren't able to effectively utilize. We didn't have a lot of the developments in data that we've had over the last 20 years. And so what that meant is you're always shipping data to your partner, always shipping data to that remote ESP. And in the middle there, I do like that you put that clock, because what that means is it doesn't only cost you money, but it costs you time, in the time to action, the time to act on the information you have. And the other thing it does is it brings together, almost an alphabet soup of vendors. So because each of these guys is only doing, or each of these companies is only doing one thing, it's impossible to only use one. Oh, and there you have it. Uh, so ended up happening is you've got your email service provider, but perhaps they don't send mobile messages well, right? Right, and that's that. Just to explain this graphic, that's where you have iterable there. Maybe and maybe you like their email, but they don't really do mobile messages, so you have to pick up a braze for your mobile channels. But you also are utilizing movable ink, which is great, but you have to log into that platform as well. Your deep links are handled through Branch. You perhaps have a segmentation tool like Unica there. And what it means is you're not able to get a consistent view of your marketing efforts. And it's none of it is connecting to your data. You're shipping data everywhere, and they're shipping data back. And so even though maybe these tools have a lot of functionality, maybe they look really attractive and they seem to be really good, the whole method of shipping data between them and from you to them, it puts the brakes on so many of these efforts that I think that you tried to call attention to in this white paper.
Well, and one of the things that it leads me into my next talking point is why now would be the right time to ditch your ESP and make a change. And we have, Nick, you and I have done a lot over the past couple months of research and discussions in different events, um, online events, obviously, but around COVID and the impact that has had on marketers and on businesses as a whole. And a lot of folks relying on digital and doubling down on digital. We did a sampling here of different headlines, but I mean we could have filled an entire presentation with headlines and research out there that basically, like, this is email in particular, but digital in general is really the only way we have as brands to communicate to our customers right now. And so investing in that channel, especially in some of your industries like travel and hospitality and some of those where there's not a lot going on. Now is the time that you're in pit row, so to speak. Let's change the tires and get fresh. And so now is the time to innovate. Now is a great time to take on some of those projects while things are a little bit slower that were really hard to do when you're going full speed. One of the things at MessageGears that we focus on, and Nick touched on when we talked about our platform, is this concept of data friction. We talked about on the previous chart, data friction is such a barrier to success for a lot of marketers, right? And it's uphill battle. There's a lot of data at our fingertips as marketers, right? We are tracking more than ever. And it can feel to a marketer like they're on this raft out in the middle of the ocean a lot of times, right? Where you're surrounded by water, but you're dying of thirst. I have all of the stuff I think I should have around me, but I don't know how to use it effectively, right? I can't get access to it, or if I do get access to it, it's time consuming and it's costly, or I can't get access to all of the right stuff to use because it's in a secure environment and I have to ship it somewhere else. And that's a problem for us, and particularly nowadays when digital is so important. But it's a problem for us in general as we continue to grow. The brands that we do business with, and for most of you as well, are these brands. Customers expect you to get it right, and us as consumers, we expect the brands that we know and love to get it right. And when you don't get it right, when the personalization is not there, where the relevance isn't there, it's more noticeable on those brands. And the conundrum is it's hardest for them to get it right because there's so much data, there's so many moving parts, and it's very difficult to create a one-on-one environment. So this is, I'll try not to be too preachy here, but I think it's time for us to raise our standards for customer marketing, and that's why we talk about ditching your ESP. I'll call back to what Nick was talking about here, where this is like 15 years ago, right? You had disparate data internally in all these on-premises systems. You had all of these companies that were doing really great things in the SaaS world, right? Where I can now, as a marketer, log in and be able to easily create a list of people to send things to. I can create an email and send it out myself. I can press send, and then I can see the analytics. I can create segments. I can do these journey builds. It was really innovative and really, really a necessary step for enterprise brands, especially on how they can keep up as more and more consumers moved to the digital age. The problem is, or the challenge is now, is that a lot of companies are making the investment on their end, on the left side here, into consolidating their data so that they can get a more comprehensive 360-degree view of their customers and their behaviors. So where things on the left side were in all these different places, your customer data, your offer data, your inventory, all of that information might have lived in totally separate places. A lot of that's being consolidated into more modern cloud data warehouses, Snowflake, Google BigQuery, Amazon Redshift. Those are some of the examples where companies are making this giant investment to say, I want all my data in one place and I want to be able to make it actionable. And the issue is these brands over on the right are some examples, but ExactTarget became Salesforce, and we have brands and upstarts like we were referencing earlier, like Iterable, where they're slick products and very good for a certain like a small mid-sized business. As you get greater and you've consolidated your data into a modern data warehouse, you're still having to ship data back and forth to those platforms. So they may be more modern in terms of being created more recently, but they're still in this legacy view of how they handle your data, and that's not going to get any better. Like they are constructed in a way where they need to have data shipped to them.
And, it's funny that you talk about it like that. Recently, a few vendors have come out and partnered with various modern data warehouses. They create bespoke partnerships, right? Where they make it easier to share data to their system, copy data forward. Bring, what do they say? It's minutes but not hours. But that's like building a faster horse, right? They're taking this old model where you can't use your data, you have to make it their data, and you have to get it across. And they're making that easier, whereas MessageGears says, well, don't stop copying your data. Just use what you have when you have it for those brands that have a lot of data that's rapidly changing, where they want to be able to send these sophisticated messages, and they've unified to that modern warehouse.
Yeah, the point we're making here is that this consolidating your data into one place for this 360-degree view, but then still shipping your data out to a third party to then be able to execute on marketing campaigns it completely negates all the benefits of putting your data into Snowflake or Azure or something like that. And again, as marketers, here's what we want, right? We want to be able to use the data that we have. We're on that raft. We're surrounded by the data. We want to be able to use that data to understand what our customers want, need, and their behaviors. We want to be able to then communicate with them effectively. We want to send them great messages, and we want to continue to stay relevant and fresh. And when you're disconnected from where your data is, if data is not at the middle of your strategy here, it's impossible to do all of these things well. And that's where MessageGears, our philosophy is completely different, and why we are saying ditch the ESP, because the ESP, the remote ESP landscape, requires you to take that data out and move it to somewhere else to ship it. We're saying let's flip that on its head. Let's go to where the data already lives. If you have your data in Snowflake, there's no reason you should be moving it outside of Snowflake. Let's have the marketing platform come to you and sit on that data, and that way you're building audiences and creating campaigns that are using live data based on the most fresh and up-to-date information that you have on your customers. And so that's when we call back to this customer marketing platform diagram here. You can see that, again, customer data is at the center. So if you have your data in Snowflake, you have your data in Redshift, that stays in Redshift, in Snowflake, and that is at the core, that stays in the middle of our platform. We put our platform right on top of it. And then you're able to do these visual segmentations, these really, really complex cross-channel campaigns through mobile and email and other channels, and then you're able to stay relevant and fresh with open time personalization and consistency across all these channels. That's where I think it's time for us as marketers, as customer marketers, to raise our standards a little bit and demand that this is the way that it should be done, because this is the way our consumers are going to expect us to be able to communicate with them. So I'll get off my soapbox for now, but I would be happy to talk to anybody on here about this at length. But I wanted to go call back to something you talked earlier about, Nick, about the lower costs. And one of the barriers we always see about, particularly ESPs, It's really just, it's a bitch to switch. It's hard to switch platforms. It's a pain in the butt. I might not be in love with the platform that I'm on, but it's going to take a long time, and it's going to be costly. And I don't want to do that. What makes this approach, this direct connect approach, different and better?
That's a good question. I think that we talk, and I said it earlier about how, MessageGears saves IT money and is quick to get started. What we try to do with this infographic, and again, there's more info in the white paper, but to really break it down, there are 3 steps to setting a MessageGears. You install the application on your side. This is a small web application that typically takes an hour to install. You design your messages, and you can begin sending email because you're plugged in directly to your data. What we try to do is compare that with what it might be like for another ESP or another vendor that doesn't connect directly to your data. And we take you along, 5 or 9 different elements that they require that we simply don't. So for the first, you'd have to identify all of the data attributes that you'd ever want to use in your email, because you're going to have to ship it over there. Then the second, you're going to have to map these attributes. So perhaps you have data that are not in the format that they expect. And so you have to go back and say, for all of my data, what kind of format are they in and what can I expect? You have to determine a cadence, because oftentimes it costs you money. You've already invested in your data. It's then going to cost you money to send it to them. And so because of the needs of different things to be fresh, maybe data is only updated once a week. Maybe you don't want to pay for a package where you update it every hour. You have to determine the cadence, at which point you then find your different data feeds, or you establish them. And by the way, these are the IT resources that I was talking about earlier that save you money, because for everything that I'm saying, not only is it going to add time, right? We're determining the feeds of how the data moves back and forth, and we're already a few months into it, because doing this holistic exercise of trying to identify all the pieces of data that we're going to need and their different formats in our entire enterprise data warehouse takes time, and it takes people. So after spending months on that and spending people hours and labor costs, you then have to determine a monitoring plan for what happens when something goes wrong. Because let's say that if a data stream breaks or a data feed doesn't extract as possible, someone has to wake up and fix it, or else you can't send messages. At which point you then get into the design at messages and send email 6 months later that you were able to do with day 1 on MessageGears. At which point, after you're sending email, you have to now get these reporting feeds back from your vendor to say, all right, so who's engaging with me? How quick can I know? What are they opening, clicking on? So I can put that into my data warehouse. I love where this graphic goes, because like you said, you're on your soapbox, and I love it, and I agree with it. But we're trying to give you an example, and if you guys have any questions, please let us know of, like, all right, where does that time and money go? Well, it goes right here, and this is the example of where that comes out.
And this is what we're conditioned to as marketers. Again, I've been in the space for a long time. This is what we just have come to expect. Like, this is how it's done. There's no other way to do it. And that's where I think we just have to rethink our entire approach here. And that's why I get excited talking about it, because it doesn't have to be this way. It doesn't have to be so hard. And there's better ways to do this. And that's why we exist, and that's why we're here. We help marketers use their data to create sophisticated messages. We want you to maintain better relationships throughout the whole customer lifecycle. We're the only customer marketing platform that's built for the modern enterprise. Again, we pride ourselves on data access, on scale and agility, and on that fast migration. It's going to save you time, it's going to save you money, and it's going to get IT and the software out of the way and enable you to communicate to your customers the way you want to and the way you should be.
To that point, proof of concepts are right in that. If it feels like we're telling you about magic, or we're promising the world right now, love to because as I am wont to do, we're all in marketing. Would love to install wherever you're living, and so you can see it for yourself.
That is,
as these people have done.
That's a great point. I mean, that's one of the things. Like, we're willing to put our money where our mouth is. Oh, cool. All right. Thanks. We're willing to put our money where our mouth is, right? So, we're able to get you installed and let you try it out before, an enterprise solution that's just not something that's able to be done typically. So, and we integrate with everybody that you're used to working with. So if you're working with a movable ink, you have your data in Snowflake, or you're working with an airship, or if you're working with an agency like a Brightwave or Havas Helia, we work with them as well. So we work with everybody you're already working with, and enable them to be even better. Again, I want to thank everybody for their time today. It's time to ditch your ESP, the white paper. Again, we're going to send it to your email, but you can go to messagegears.com/ditchem and get access to it right now. And we would love to hear your feedback. So Nick and I would be we're available. You can find us on LinkedIn. You can shoot us a note from messagegears.com. We'd love to hear more from you and to talk to you about how we can help. So thanks so much, everyone. Have a great day. Thank you, Nick.
Absolutely. Thank you.